Shalom, everyone. The Gemara in Kiddushin, page 30, is raising the question of evil in the world, or more precise, are we bad? Are people bad? Are they initially bad? Were we born with a bad inclination? And this is a big, big topic that not only in Judaism and throughout the world in cultures and religions, since forever, people are trying to figure out evil that is caused by people in the world. And we're going to take a quick pick on our Gemara and see what we find in today's shiur. And it's it's just a very because we have so little time. I'm just going to offer you some thoughts from different parshanim, different thinkers, and you can continue thinking about this really deep and existential topic. So the discussion in Kiddushin, in page 30, the Baraita is saying, okay, the sages thought, so difficult is the evil inclination that even its creator calls it evil, as it is stated, for the inclination of a man's heart is evil from his youth. Rav Yitzchak says, a person's evil inclination renews itself to him every day, as it is stated, and that every inclination of the thoughts in his heart was only evil all day, and kol hayom in Hebrew can also be understood as every day. So we have here three statements. One is that the evil inclination is difficult even in the eyes of God. And second is the first pasuk, ki yetzer lev adam ra mineurav, and the inclination in man's heart is evil from his youth. And the third one is rak ra kol hayom, everything, like every day we tend to do evil. And I will break this baraita to three, and we'll start from the latter one. The pasuk appears in Bereshit 6. We are before the story of the Mabul, and God saw how great was human wickedness on earth, how every plan devised by the human mind was nothing but evil all the time. These are really harsh words, and that's what caused God to bring the flood. And there's only one person, that is worth saving, and it's Noah, who is okay, and who is the only tzaddik on earth. But God is viewing what people do, and there's the wickedness of on earth is great, but he also sees that every plan devised by the human mind is nothing but evil. And on that says the Radak, and Hashem saw the end of the 120 years that Hashem had given had come to an end, and he saw that the people, did not improve their behavior, but in fact worsened them, and that each day was worse than the one before. Thus it states, only evil all day. And the meaning of kol yetzer, all yetzer, machshavot libo, is that man has in his heart two inclinations, a good inclination and a bad inclination. And all of their inclinations were bad, and there was no good inclination in them, beside for now. So what the Radak is saying, we should look at the pasuk. It doesn't say yetzer ra. It says yetzer. We have inclination. We have two inclinations, good and bad. But they took all their mind and thinking towards the evil, towards the bad, not using their good side. And it is such that God created his world to be good, either wholly or mostly good. And if it's all bad, it can no longer exist because God will not choose anything but good. In other way, in the depth of what the Radak is saying is that there's some kind of a cosmological godly rule that if all what people do is bad, this world cannot hold itself. If the world was even mostly good, not all good, that world can sustain itself. But because everything people think about is how to do bad, using that yetzer, that inclination in them, only that bad inclination, not the good inclination, then God needs to restart everything. And the Chizkuni on Bereshit is adding something very fascinating. And he says, the Chizkuni, because the evil of men was so great, there is no sense in saying, since all is revealed before him, how did he create them to sin? Chizkuni is saying, a person who will come and said, well, why does God sound so surprised? He created people. He surely knows that they can sin. He created them and God gave us the ability to sin through bchira chofshit and the two inclinations. And Chizkuni is saying, don't say that, because the reason for this is that fear of heaven is not in the hands of heaven, as it says. And now, Israel, what does Hashem, your God, ask from you? Only to fear God. In other words, the thing that stands before a human being and sin is a fear of God. If there's no fear of God, the people will sin. So it's not in the hands of God. God didn't create people to sin. He gave us the ability, but he also gave us the ability not to sin. And that's the job. The work in this world is to abstain ourselves and stop ourselves from doing sin and greatly and do greatly good things. And another pasuk that he quotes, and now Israel, and it also states, if only they had a heart to do what I told them. In other words, they have it in potential, but it's for them to choose where to take it. And it also states, see, I have placed before you today life and good and death and evil. And usually we read that pasuk to be like an order, but this is not an order. God is telling us in Sefer Devarim, Moshe is saying, I placed before you. It's an advice. It's a good advice. There's different directions to take in life. Choose good, because that will be the best for you. That will be the best for your life. The other pasuk is maybe a more famous one in sense that we hear it more often. We also know that the Christian, especially the Catholic theology, used that to say that initially we're inclined to do bad. And the pasuk says, "Vayarach Hashem et reach hanichoch." We are after the flood, after Noah got out of the ark with his family and gave the sacrifice, and God is smelling the smell, and the Lord smelled the sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. And I changed the word, I highlight the word imagination, because there's a choice here in the English to translate the word yetzer into the word imagination. But yetzer is, as we know, is the inclination, the tendency of the heart, of the yetzer of the heart of a person is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite anymore everything living as I have done. In other words, God is saying in the Pshat, Yetzer Lev Adam Ra Mineurav. In other words, I understand now that even though I hoped people will choose good, they choose bad. And therefore, I'm not going to punish the land again because of them, because they tend to choose bad. But the words that are, sparking the imagination or the tendency of interpretation throughout the generation is the word mineurav. What does that mean? That the inclination of a human heart is evil, is bad from Ne'urav. Is Ne'urav really from his youth, or can we understand it in a different way? And first we have Rashi, and Rashi is quoting a midrash, and Rashi is saying, from his youth, it says from his youth, because from the moment that a youth exits his mother's womb, he is given a yetzer hara. In other words, Rashi understands the word ne'urim from the word nin'ar is being is exiting, being coming out, is being shaken out of his mother's womb. Nin'ar and ne'urav. So Rashi is saying, of course, we're not created, evil. We are created with yetzer, with inclinations, with the desires to do things and to feel things and to create things. But as we meet the world, the minute we're out of the safety of our mother's womb, then yetzer hara is being bestowed upon us or given to us, or we learned it, from society. And the Radak is saying the following. For the inclination of the heart, read yetzer from the word create, because it was created along with him. And the Ramban is saying what God created is a yetzer, okay? Is that ability to create, for us people to create. He didn't put yetzer hara, that's what the Rambam reads into it. Yetzer lev adam, that inclination that was created inside of us. And it says from his youth, and that, and it's created along with him, not bad or good, just an inclination. And it says from his youth, because the evil inclination is created in man prior to the good inclination, because there is no actual good inclination until he grows and acquires it a little at a time. So what the Radak adds to us is the following. He says, like, we have that potential, but when at our youth, we start to experience the world. But first, we have yetzer hara that allows us to go out, to be fearless, to try different things. And only after there's a trial period, we start to understand what's good and what's bad. So the good inclination is being acquired slowly, a bit by bit, step by step throughout our life. But first, at our youth, at our first years, what we have is the bad inclination, that helps us figuring out the world. And then when we learn, then we can control the bad inclination and act on the good inclination. And what Rav Shimshon Refael here, she's saying, we're jumping hundreds of years. We're at the end of the 19th century in Germany, as opposed to the 13th century of Radak and the 11th century of Rashi. And Rav Hirsch, who lives in the era of romanticism, of humanistic, and there's a feeling that everyone's good and everyone's seeking to do the best for their neighbors and for their fellow men, before everything burst in the face of humanity in World War First, the First World War and the Second World War. And Rav Hirsch is saying the nature of youth in its original character, before it has been wrapped in a talit of flattery, is still shaken. Now he's using, as Rashi used the word shaken, lena'er, but he's saying they're being shaken by good and bad impression. When we're young, we are shaking away from us, impressions. We want to try everything by ourselves. We want to experience everything and decide for ourselves. And young people are neither righteous or evil. Woe is he who says that the average child is evil. Anyone who knows children will agree that this is not true. Youth is not corrupt. The heart of man is not evil from youth. It is not from youth that a person aspires to evil. And the way that I'll just explain that the way that Rav Hirsch understand the pasuk. Rav Hirsch understand the pasuk that natural way, the natural existence is that there is no evil when we're young, and God is saying, even if the not natural thing will happen, and all of a sudden the youth is going to be bad, even though I'm not going to destroy the land, but the norm is that youth are not corrupted. Youth is not corrupted, and it is not from youth that a person aspires to evil. During irregular times, the number of adults that tend to evil behavior is greater than the number of children. In truth, children are prone to doing bad things because they have not yet become accustomed to the keeping of mitzvot. Self-control and regulation are seen by them as a burden, and in their quest for independence, they will shake their burden off of them. Indeed, it is difficult to overcome this will for independence. Lack of intellectual maturity may result in a stubborn streak. However, this independence is the root of the person's future moral character. In order to develop a moral character, says Rav Hirsch, we were born with this inclination, with this potential, with this desire to try the world. And then slowly, when we come to our senses, and then when at the maturity in 12 or 13, we accept the mitzvot, and we understand that there's something above us, but that independent on doing what I want to do and fail and get hurt is helping me understand my inner world and the moral world, and then create moral older people. So we cannot skip, says Rav Hirsch, that level of independence that the youth have. And from that perspective, I wanna end with the Midrash in Bereshit Rabbah. And the Midrash is asking a great deep question, very courageous questions, as Midrashim tend to ask. And Rabbi Nachman, in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, said, "Behold, it was good." He's referring to the last pasuk that ends the creation. I'll show you the pasuk in a minute. When God ends the creation, he says, "Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa v'hineh tov meod." God looked back on everything that he created, and he said, it is great. Ken tov meod, very, very good. And says the Medrash, and behold, it was very good. Refers to, behold, it was very good, refers to the good desire. And behold, it was very good, refers to the evil desire. In other words, the word says, Vetov me'od, I understand it in two ways. Tov me'od is the good, Vetov me'od and Tov me'od is the evil inclination. It only says very good after man was created with both the good and the bad inclinations. In all other cases, it only says, and God saw that it was good. Can that evil desire be very good? Okay, so the entire discussion, which is interesting, but it leads the Midrash to ask the question, what do you mean Hineh Tov Me'od is evil? How can evil be very good? That would be extraordinary. But without the evil inclination and desire, however, no man would build a house, take a wife, beget children. And thus says Shlomo, again I considered all labor and all excelling in work, that it is a man's rivalry with his neighbor. In other words, the Midrash is telling us, look, if God created us with Yetzer, that means that it's a good thing. Not only that it's a good thing, that everything he created in us is Tov Me'od. And there's a reason why we have an inclination or a desire for bad, but not in the mean, evil way, but in the, go forth way, in trying out the world, in trying to create, be curious, develop, experience, advance. We see today with technology and medicine, in order to have sorry, in order to have to find to get married, you need to desire to be with a partner. In order to build a house and create a family, you need a desire. In order to become the best you can be with your all abilities, talents, you need to look at your neighbor and say, wow, he's doing great. Not the evil jealousy of like, he's doing great, I want to hurt him, but she's doing great, I can also do something good. And the world moves on. Excel with that. So at the bottom line, I think the Midrash is saying the ra is when we choose to do ra with what God gave us. The initial desires that God gave us are there for us to develop ourselves as people, develop our relationship on the right track, and help each other develop the world with everything that God bestowed on us and gave us. And that can be very good. Thank you.